Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is a book review of What the Fuck is Tarot and How Do I Do It by Bakara Wintner. I've been saying her name wrong this entire time. I've been calling her Bakara, but it's Bakara, so I apologize. And also there will be a lot of swearing in this video. It's just inevitable. So you've been forewarned. I heard about this book from Simon from the Hermit's Cave. He was talking about it in one of his lives, and he mentioned how the book treats the court cards a little differently. The book groups them into families, which I thought was really interesting, and that prompted me to get the book. Now, I am more comfortable with court cards than I used to be, but even now in readings, it takes me just a tad longer to digest a court card than it does the other cards. I still tend to get them a little bit confused. And so that was the main reason that I bought the book. And, you know, the title was also, it seemed like it'd be a fun book. I'll just run down the chapter titles to give you an idea of what's in the book. So Bakara starts off with, who the fuck am I? And who the fuck are you? What the fuck is tarot? What the fuck is magic? How the fuck do I choose a deck? The major arcana, the minor arcana, the court cards. What the fuck are tarot spreads? How the fuck do I give a reading? Enhancing your magic. And the final chapter, it's been real and surreal. I certainly like her personality. I think it shines through in her writing. That kind of dry, sardonic humor. And the writing itself, I think she's a good writer. I think it's clear. There were no parts where I felt like the sentences were muddy or needed clarification. So I just found her language fun. So the book gives a good deal of attention to the majors, not surprising. She provides some keywords that pertain to the card. She goes into the description of the card, and then she provides an account from her own life that she feels illustrates the meaning of that particular card. One thing I appreciate about the descriptions in the majors and the minors as well is that Bakara reminds the reader about the fool's journey. So throughout the book, she is reminding us, okay, this is a situation that we might be coming from, the devil, for example, and that informs how we might have gotten to this point, this current situation of the tower. But ultimately, we don't need to lose hope because the next card is the Star. So I liked that. I liked the stories from her own life that she provides to further illustrate the card. I thought those were good examples, engaging stories, and really all of her descriptions just continue to have that thread of her kind of no holds bar attitude, the tell it like it is tone. And you see it a lot in the minors. You definitely see it in the court cards. So for example, in the minors, the Four of Cups, she has titled, You're Being a Brat. The Eight of Cups is the shitty breakup. And then you have the Eight of Pentacles, I made this and I don't hate it. So I think this book is a lot of fun in that way. It kind of makes you chuckle, it makes you laugh, and it doesn't take itself that seriously. She spends the least amount of time on the minors though, so you don't get nearly as much information as you do the majors or the court cards. And I would say that sometimes her take on some of the minor cards and the court cards don't feel so fleshed out to me. So that would be probably one of my biggest constructive criticisms of the book. So for example, the Ten of Swords. I'll just read you a little excerpt of the Ten of Swords, which she has titled, I'm Dead. Now where are we? Looking around, I'd say we're at the bottom. You failed to heed the warnings of the earlier swords, instead charging ahead in your victimization, self-sabotage, and dishonesty, and have eviscerated yourself in the process. You murdered yourself with your thoughts. Are you done yet? I mean, certainly that is one way to look at that card, but it's not the only way. And again, that salty attitude of hers, I mean, I love it, and at the same time, I feel like it kind of does a disservice in that it doesn't paint the full picture of the meaning of the card. So moving on to the court cards, she groups them into families. So you have, in a suit, the daughters, which are the pages, the sons, which are the knights, the mothers, which are the queens, and the fathers, which are the kings, which we've actually, I feel like we've seen that in some tarot decks before. So that makes sense to me, and I like that idea. I think it's a different take. What I like about the court cards is that she starts off each suit kind of giving this introductory description about the family as a whole, how they would be living, what kind of house they would be living in, just their kind of family structure and their overall behavior with each other, and just the family dynamic, which I think was engaging, and that clicked for me. But then with some of these cards, as with the minors, I felt like they were, just really salty. It didn't give me a balance of light and shadow, and so I felt they could have been more fleshed out. So for instance, you have the Son of Wands, which she refers to as the fuck boy. The Daughter of Cups is the space cadet. The Father of Cups is the broken man. And then the Mother of Swords is the bitch you don't want to fuck with. And I'll read you a little bit of the Mother of Swords, the Queen of Swords, which I personally identify the most with. So I found that description particularly interesting. Mother of Swords, that bitch you don't want to fuck with. The Mother of Swords has been burned in the past, badly, perhaps repeatedly, and is not going to let that happen again. She shut down her heart for the sake of protecting it, and she had her reasons, but she never went back to retrieve it. She's got trust issues she never sought therapy for. She craves connection but cannot ask for it and refuses it when it comes her way. As a result, her attempts at vulnerability come off stunted, translating as victimhood and blaming. You're never comfortable around her. Her passive aggression borders on aggression at all times, and anything you say could make her snap at you. Honestly, she's a bitch. She is sharp, jaded, mistrustful, and quick to assume the worst about others. She rarely forgives and never forgets. And it goes on. I mean, certainly, that is one way you could see the Queen of Swords. But again, not the full picture, not by a long shot. And so I think that for me, there was a lot of potential in how she organized the courts into families, but for me, it just didn't click and kind of got lost in the imbalance of how she treats each of the courts. I would say I personally did not find this all that illuminating. Would I recommend this book? I would, for beginners, which I think it's intended for that audience, especially the beginners in tarot who want the meat and potatoes right away. They don't necessarily want to get into the history of tarot or all of the symbolism. Then this book is good for that. Like I said, it's funny. I think it's well written. I think it's clear, and I think it offers some good perspectives. Would I recommend this as the first book for beginners? No, I wouldn't. I think that this should come after a book that treats the tarot in a more well-rounded way. So for a beginner tarot reader, if you feel like this book would be up your alley, I would recommend it, but maybe before reading that book, read this book first, because it's similar in that it doesn't get into all the symbolism, and it doesn't do that deep dive into the nitty-gritty and the history. It's more practical in its application, and I don't hear a lot about this book, but it's going beyond the Little White Book by Liz Worth. And I found this through Benabel. She did a positive book review on this, and this is the first book that I actually learned with. This book and Joanne Bunning's free online tarot course, those were the first two things that kind of launched me back into really learning tarot. So I feel that this book does an excellent job of providing that knowledge of the light, of the shadow, and giving some of these practical applications, these example scenarios and situations that can help you learn about how to interpret the card. If you want me to do a book review on this, let me know in the comments below, and I can certainly do that. Do I regret reading this book? Not at all. I think it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was easy. It was an easy read. And I think if you're kind of looking for a salty book, a salty take on tarot, I think you would enjoy reading this for sure. Let me know if you have read it in the comments below and what you thought of the book. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.